What's happening, bass players? Ryan here from BassMatter, taking you through the core bass learning program. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the diatonic order and help understand why it might be one of the most important music theory lessons you put your energy into. Let's get to work. Ever take choir back in school? Remember those lessons way back in the day where you were working in front of a piano and you were going whole, half, whole, half, and they were talking about semitones and tones, and by now most of that information has left you and you've been finding information online about playing pentatonics and working through blues shapes and those types of things. We need to go back. We need to go all the way back and take a look at that diatonic system again and figure out the components that make it function. So let's start off with understanding pitch as it relates to our bass very specifically. So on our instrument again, we've got our frets, okay? And on our frets, we've got moving from one fret to the next has some sort of a measurement of pitch, okay? So first of all, let's look at the microscopic view here. From one fret to the next, we have measurements of pitch, okay? Each fret contains 100 cents of pitch. And if we were to use US dollars as a reference here, there's 100 pennies on each one of our frets. And to get from here to here, we have to go up 100 cents of pitch. And if you go back to our tuning video, I talked about cents of pitch being on tuners, and you'll see them there, and that's one of the ways that we can really get some fine tuning going there. But if we take 100 cents of pitch, that's just going up one fret. There's two other names for that. The first name is called a semitone, okay? You've probably heard that before, one semitone, and we also call that a half step. So a half step is equal to one semitone, and one semitone is equal to 100 cents of pitch, okay? Now, the big brother to that is going to be the whole step, okay? So if I start here and I skip a fret completely, that's called a whole step, okay? Now that whole step has a different word, and that's called a tone, and that tone has 200 cents of pitch, okay? So that's understanding how our frets divide frequencies and pitch on our fretboard into 100 cents of pitch for each fret, and how we as musicians take half steps and whole steps or more to get from one note value to the next. Now, moving on to the diatonic system. We've got 12 notes on our fretboard, okay? There are 12 notes on a piano. There are 12 notes on a guitar. Diatonic scales are 7 different pitches with a repeated octave. So the octave, so 1 and 8 are the same note, but they are a different pitch. Let's take a look. C major scale, which is a diatonic scale. C1, D2, E3, F4, G5, A6, B7, and our 8 and our 1 are both C's again. And they have their own, they're an octave apart from each other. That is a diatonic scale. And almost all of the music that we listen to and play today is based off of a measurement of half steps and full steps that create those diatonic scales. Let's play our major scale again on one string. I'll start on C because that's what we've been working with so far, and we can avoid our sharps and flats, so for you newer players out there, it doesn't get too crazy. So here's the formula. It is whole, half, whole, half. You can find this for free on the modes to chord chart on the website. Make sure you go and grab that, totally free diatonic order right there in the middle of the page. It's free, go grab it. Has all these things listed out here. So we have to take some steps. So we've got 7 different pitches and a repeated octave. So I take my diatonic order. I have to start somewhere. I'm starting on C. The first action is to take a whole step. The second action is to take a whole step. Second action is to take a half step. The next one's a whole step. The next one's a whole step. Next one's also a whole step. And to finish everything off is a half step. And that is our C major scale played on one string. So that's the diatonic system at its fundamental core. Now we can pick that same shape and start anywhere on the fretboard. Here, I'll start on B right here. So I'm going to take a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Did you guys hear the major scale in there? We just played a B major scale on one string going all the way up the fretboard, okay? The diatonic system is what identifies and specifies our flavors of music that we have today. And we are utilizing 7 of the notes out of the 12 on our fretboard, okay? And that's what makes our music, Western music of the last 400 years, sound the way that it does, because we've got 12 notes all created by our frets on our chromatic instrument here, and we are using the diatonic scale system to separate out which one of those notes we're going to use and in what order we are going to use them. The next part to the diatonic order is each one of these numbers, right? Scale degrees. We talked about scale degrees before when we talked about scales and memorizing what they were. Each one represents a specific tonality of major, minor, or diminished. Let's identify those. It's also on that modes to chords chart that you've got, so make sure you look at that as well. It tells you what 1 is, what 2 is. Let's go through that. So we're going to play our major scale on one string again, following our whole, half, whole, half step system there. So I've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, using the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, my scale degrees, okay? Number 1. 1 is major. Now I can add in a major third to make it sound major. 2s are minor, so I'm going to go to my D and play a minor third. Then go to my 3, and 3s are minor, and play a minor third. And then go to my 4, which is F, and that's major. Then go to my 5, which is G, and that's also major. 5s are major. Go to my 6, 6s are minor. Go to my 7, and my 7 is diminished, but as far as the third is concerned, it's just a minor tonality. And then back to my major. Now what this is going to build us up to over time, guys, is getting us to do a conditioning and theory exercise that I refer to as diatonic climbs. And we're going to start working through this mechanism right here to learn all of our modes, working through our triads, learning our 7 chords, because this is the fundamental, foundational building block to make sure that all of these theory components that we're going to be looking at ahead start to make sense, and we can tie all of those things together. And you're going to start having these light bulb moments where things start going off and you're like, oh, that's how that works. But you've got to have the diatonic system down. Remember, it is the diatonic scales are 7 pitches with a repeated octave, so we have 8 numbers or 8 scale degrees in there. As far as the separation goes from pitch, using our whole steps and half steps, or else our tones and our semitones, it is whole, half, whole, half. And we don't start on something and call it whole. We have to start somewhere and then take our first action. So I'm going to start here, and my first step was a whole step. Then it was a whole step. Then it was a half step. Then it was a whole step. Then it was a whole step. Then it was a whole step. Then it was a half step. Right? Each one of those numbers has a tonality. 1s are major, 2s are minor, 3s are minor, 4s are major, 5s are major, 6 are minor, 7 are diminished with the minor, so there's a minor third in there, and then our major back up top, which is our 8. And we'll start putting in all sorts of more information to this diatonic climb system. So that's it, guys. Make sure you spend some time really memorizing this measurement system and this process and this mechanism, because I promise you it's going to make a huge difference in how well you're able to interpret the theory information that we're going to be covering down the road. And that leads us into our next lesson, which is going to be a conversation about triads, how to use them, why they're so important, how they directly tie into the diatonic order that we just learned today. So make sure that you get this down and then go straight to our triads video and start working on those triads, because that's going to really take you off of being a root bass player where you're just playing the root and give you a lot of freedom to explore that fretboard. Guys, this is Ryan from BassMatter.com signing off. Super stoked that you are here. Make sure you find us online, guys. We've got a lot of great information. You can find us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, like us on Google+, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Hours and hours of video content right here for free, just like this. All high quality, all high definition, all with a bunch of great support and companion materials for you. It's great. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys at the next lesson. This is Ryan, signing off.